The mayor is in on Open Line tonight. We have a nice big long segment coming up that we're going to get a lot of your calls in. But first I want to talk transit.
Sure.
We had the referendum, it died, and it kind of seems like the conversation died. What's the reality?
Well, the reality is we got to get started building something, and that's what we've been doing. So May 2nd of last year, we started working on what we need to do to make progress on transportation and transit. So we've done 4 things. We're really working on 4 things right now. First, we're working with TDOT to be more efficient in terms of using our existing resources. So that means putting smart corridors in and out of town. We've finished Murfreesboro Road, Noblesville's next, then Dickerson, and so getting a better system of signals and sensors and communication on all those corridors, and then managing it from a central location. And TDOT's got resources, they want to help us do that. The second thing is this is a regional issue. So we need a second regional line. We have the Music City Star that goes to Wilson County. We're working with TDOT to try and take something out Dickerson Road, connect it via Briley Parkway to Vietnam Vets out towards Gallatin. Second thing. The third thing is that most cities trying to build out a transit network will start with a line from the airport to downtown, because the economics of that are just a little bit different than everything else. And so we're working with the Airport Authority and the Convention Center Authority that both have resources to try and address that. And then the fourth thing is WeGo, MTA, and so there was some downsizing this year as a result of the loss of some state revenue and some increased costs. And in the coming years, what we're going to do is go back and look at those lines that are there and make them more frequent, have better duration, because we think that's the way, we know that's the way to get better utilization of the transit. We're also building some neighborhood transit hubs so that people using transit in Nashville will have a better set of circumstances. The first one's going to be over, we hope, over, I think it's at 25th and Clarksville Pike. 24th or 25th, I can't remember which one, over in front of Hillsborough High School. There'll be one in Madison. And so we'll have to make those investments and move forward. I think there's some conversation out there about whether or not we should have another referendum immediately, or whether or not we should have another planning process. But I think we've pretty clearly identified what the next steps need to be, and we've been working on them now for a little bit more than a year, and you'll see progress soon.
Okay. I look forward to that. Let's go to Jack on the line. Hi, Jack. Thank you for holding tonight. What's your question? Jack, you're on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I actually have one question and 2 comments.
Okay.
The question is, apparently there's been talk about a tax increase, and it's quite amazing when you consider the rapid rate of growth of the tax base, which one would mathematically conclude will lead to substantial new revenues. But apparently that's not the case, and I'm wondering if the TIF programs that are liberally handed out to developers all over the area are the cause of the shortfall. My 2 comments is, in my dealings with privatized parking meters downtown, they don't work. I've spent 45 minutes waiting in a line to pay my parking ticket so I could go to a meeting. And my other comment is, I don't know where we get our paving materials from, but it's amazing to me that we must get the worst asphalt in the country, that our roads are in such continuous disrepair. And they pave something and the asphalt actually shrinks and goes away. I've never seen anything like it in any of the other places in the country that I've lived. But in the dozen years that I've been here, I've been quite amazed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jack. Let's get to that first part of the
Sure.
question. And, you know, you just mentioned TIF, and it gets people riled up. The hair on the back of their neck sticks up. Let's just get down and dirty about it. Where is all the revenue from all the people who have moved here?
Sure. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to respond to this one. So a couple of things. First, tax increment financing has been used downtown over the last 20 and 30 years to help build some of the things that at the beginning wouldn't have been built with that tax increment financing.
Before Nashville was the it city and the place to be.
And so I think people looking back say, well, that made sense. And now we're to a point where we don't necessarily need to use it like we once did. And so I've been mayor for 16 months and we haven't approved a single tax increment financing arrangement, period, in my 16 months. Because I don't think we're going to need to just to promote development. I think we may want to in the future to promote housing affordability or some other idea, but not just to promote growth. We don't need to do that right now. Last year I filed a budget. This year I filed a budget. Neither one had a tax increase. The council wanted to raise taxes both years, and we were able to keep them from doing that. Fundamentally, we had one budget that had some holes in it. And it was because the tax rate was actually set too low after the reappraisal in 2017. We had some increases in debt service associated with decisions made during the recession to protect jobs back then. General Hospital continued to cost money, and then a series of other smaller things, losing some state money. Now this year, we had almost around $100 million in new revenue without raising taxes. And with that $100 million, we got a 3% cost of living adjustment to our employees, 4.5% cost of living adjustment to teachers, which is the biggest they've had in a decade. We paid all our debts as they came due, and the city is moving forward. And so that's my job. That's what I fought to do, to make sure that we could live within our means, get more resources to folks in our town, and I think we did a pretty good job of it this last year.
Okay, let's move ahead to Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy, you're on the line. Go ahead with your question.
Hello?
Hi, Jimmy, go ahead.
All right, I was wondering about, I've seen on your campaign where it says you were fighting the big developers on when it came to Fort Negley over there and all this stuff. But yeah, on the other hand, you turned right around and tried to sell two of the parks to developers, as well as a couple of other things here in Nashville to developers. And at the same time, you give away the fairgrounds after we voted to keep it as it was. And y'all, of course, didn't even pay attention to that. Y'all already had plans on developing it, and you didn't give a damn about the voters. So what's this about you fighting developers? You're in their pocket.
All right. I'm going to let you jump into that one, Mayor Briley.
Thank you. You want me to answer that?
Go right ahead.
All right. Well, let's start with the three. So the budget 2 years ago, we had 3 parcels that we were selling to the highest bidder. I didn't decide who was going to buy them. We put them on the e-bid, and whoever paid the most was going to get a chance to buy them. One was the site of an old fire hall, and we built another one nearby, so we didn't need the land anymore. The second one was where we had the old salt bins over on Charlotte, and the council had approved that the year before. So it was not my idea. It's something the council had already said okay to. And the third was a school over in Edge Hill that MDHA planned to buy from us. And so that's what we proposed. Things that seemed to make pretty good sense for the city. The council changed it, and then the school board changed it again, but still it was all sold to the highest bidder in the open market, and there's no I didn't decide who was going to buy it, but it was something that we needed to do. It's my sense that the city doesn't need to own every piece of property in town, and if there's some reason for us to get it into the hands of somebody who can build something and we can collect taxes from that site, that probably makes good sense for the taxpayers in the long run. But I'm sensitive to the fact that we got to protect our open space. So just a couple of weeks ago, I announced that we were going to acquire almost 800 acres of land in Bells Bend to protect and preserve forever, so that we can have more farming in our county, to protect food security here in Nashville, and maintain the quality of life for our city. And so that's the kind of mayor I've been, and I will be going forward.
He brought up the fairgrounds, and it is just a very emotional issue for a lot of folks, and people still not buying into the plan, saying, I don't see this thing taking off. What are you doing?
Sure. So first and foremost, the council approved that before I was mayor, and so the city had made a commitment to do that before I became mayor. voted 31 votes to 7, I think, to do it. And I felt it was important for me to live up to the city's commitment, and I pushed that over the finish line when I became mayor. But I do, frankly, think it's a good idea on top of that. If you go over there right now and see the construction of the Expo Center, that is going to replace the old buildings that were built 50 years ago, I think you'll see that we've done right by the people who use the fairgrounds, that it's going to be a good facility. It's going to be better than what was there before. And we're protecting the racetrack and adding a whole lot of more interesting activities that are going to take place there. I think people are going to look back and say, well, I may have been nervous about it at the beginning, but it's actually a good thing for the city. And if you go over there any day, even if it's raining, and check out the Fair Park, where there's a great dog park there, you'll see that people are enjoying the fairground site still today, and it's going to be more and more enjoyed every single year. And I grew up going to the State Fair right there, and I've got great memories of the place. And it's up to us to make sure that we have a place where young people can go and get great memories again. And part of that is a Major League Soccer team, which I think is going to be a great addition to this city.
Our time is running short, so I want to ask this last question. Maybe not the last one, but I'm going to give you about a minute to answer it. If you are reelected, your top three priorities going forward.
Sure. So overall, it's not about growing bigger, it's about growing stronger as a city. And so to me, what that means is focusing on public education and seeing real improvements for our students and more resources going to schools. Secondly, it is working on workforce development, because it's really a critical issue for our city. So I started a program called Nashville Grad that's going to help more of our students get through Nashville State Community and TCAT to get that first post-secondary degree or certification, because that helps you make more money. We need to work on transportation and transit, and I talked to you about the 4 things we need to do there. We can't afford in 20 years to look back and say we did nothing. So we got to get started. It's not time for a plan. It's not time for a referendum. It's time for action, and we're doing that. The 4th thing is housing affordability. And so it means different things to different people, but it's clear that if you're at that very bottom end of the economic spectrum, 0 to 30% of the area median income, if the city of Nashville doesn't do it, if we're not the ones leading, if we're not the ones building, if we're not the ones providing that housing, it's just not going to happen. And I'm not going to let folks who live in our neighborhoods get pushed out of the town they love because they can't afford to live there anymore. That's what we're working on.
Very good. All right, we're going to come back and wrap things up in just a moment. Stay with us.